while we're waiting on that, may Mr. Kilborn approach just a second?
There's nobody here?
Swinging chairs. Sure.
This witness.
Statement called Molly Sims.
Have a seat, please.
Ma'am, would you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name and spelling it so the court reporter gets it right?
My name is Molly Sims, Mollylys.
And Molly, do you live in the metro Atlanta area? Okay. How old are you?
22.
Do you know a person by the name of Justin Ross Harris?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know him, or how did you know him?
We met on a dating app called Scout a few years ago.
How long ago was that, or how long before June of 2014 did you meet this person?
Probably 2 years.
You said you met him on Scout. About how old were you when you met him, as best you remember?
About 18.
When you first met this person, do you remember his screen name?
Bama XH, I think.
When you first started talking to this person, did he tell you anything about himself, like where he lived, his family situation, anything like that?
He told me a little bit. He said he lived in like Marietta area, I think, and he said he had a wife.
Okay. Over that time, tell the jury just generally how did it start out as far as communicating online. What app did you use first?
Scout.
And how long did y'all talk on Scout before you went to a different type of app?
I don't remember exactly. It was a few months.
After those few months, did you start talking on a different type of app?
Yes.
And what was that?
Kick.
Kick. When you guys talked online and messaged back and forth, what was the general nature of the communications back and forth when you first started talking?
We would talk about like everyday things, and it did get sexual sometimes.
And when it got sexual, was it basically you both talking back and forth to each other in that way?
Yes.
Okay. And were pictures sent back and forth? Okay. Well, these are different parts of your body, private parts. How long did this go on, as far as you can remember, before you kind of started, I guess, for lack of better terms, kind of trailing off, or kind of slowing down with it?
I guess about 2 years. We talked for total 2 years.
And at some point, did you get a boyfriend or something to where you kind of stopped talking to him as much?
Yes.
Okay, and about when was that?
I think it was December-ish of 2013 or so.
After that, did the defendant continue to message you? Did you message him and things of that nature?
Not as much.
And were there times when he would communicate with you and you wouldn't respond?
Yes.
And how did he respond when you didn't respond to him, as best you recall?
He asked like, "Where are you?" or "You left," or something like that.
Now, did you ever, at any point, meet up with him or ever meet the defendant in person? During this time, were there occasions that he would ask you and try to get you to meet up with him?
Yes.
How often would this happen?
Yes, it was a few times that he asked about it. I don't know how many.
on those occasions, I guess as after December of 2013, were there times that you would try to have conversations with him that were non-sex related?
Yes.
Okay. Were you going through some things at the time? And generally, how did he react to that, or what was the conversation? How would he turn it?
He would usually just kind of blow it off and change the subject or make it sexual.
Now, do you remember what the last communication with him, what day it was? Did there come a time where you turned off the application kick and stopped using it in June of 2014? Now, have I shown you a log of your communications with the defendant, at least going back to sometime in December 2013? Well, I forgot to ask you. He said he talked about, you knew he was married. What did he tell you about his marriage, if anything?
Not a whole lot. He just mentioned it, and he had mentioned that he was talking to other women and would meet up with other women and stuff.
And did he ever tell you anything about being caught talking to you, or would that have been somebody else?
He mentioned that he had been caught cheating, but I don't know if it was specifically me or
Or what it actually, the details of it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Show defense counsel have already marked the state's exhibit 407, 408, and 409. All right, Molly, I'm going to show you first what I marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 407. Okay, take a look at that. And do you recognize State's Exhibit 407 and what's inside of it?
Yes.
Okay, and what is that?
Some messages between me and him.
Okay. And those are very accurate, and the actual chats between the two of you, as far as are recorded in that. And I'm sorry, you got to answer out loud.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what was your screen name?
M. Sue Sims.
Your Honor, I would tender State's Exhibit 407 at this time.
For all the previous objections that have been discussed, I'd like to object on those same.
Admitted over those objections.
And now I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 408 and 409. Ask you if you recognize those.
Yes.
And are those photographs taken from the photographs depicted in the chats there, identifying a picture of you in 408 and a picture of the defendant's face in 409?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, I tender State's Exhibit 408 and 409.
Same objection.
Same ruling.
Now, while I'm going to hand you that, I've just got a few other questions, okay? Going through talking about the chats, I'm going to ask you to look at December of 2013, the first of it. Basically, just looking through those, were y'all chatting about every day up until Christmas Eve? You've reviewed it, you know it. Okay. And at some point, going into December after Christmas and on Christmas Eve and things like that, did he continue to try to contact you and then you not respond for a little bit?
Yes.
Now, going into March, ask you to turn to March 2014, those dates, does it pick back up and you guys start talking again about, and do you engage in sexual conversations back then in March?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you if you turn to May 22nd, 2014. Probably toward the end. Okay? Did he message you on that day?
Yes.
Okay? And what did he message you?
Hi.
Did you respond at all? Was there ever a response?
No.
Okay. Now, on June the 11th, I know you'd said, you told the jury that there were several occasions where you would just cut off communication with him, or you wouldn't respond, and he would get upset and things like that. On the 11th, did he try to message you again, June 11th?
Yes.
And what was his message?
You're gone again.
And what message did he receive at that point?
It looks like Molly's phone has been disconnected for a while. We'll deliver your message when they connect again.
Okay. Is that what shows up when you disconnect from Kick? Okay. Now, thank you, Mom. Just one other question. During all this time you talked with him, you were talking with him online, and he's trying to get you to meet up with him and things like that. Did he tell you different things about himself? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you that he had a child?
Not that I remember. No.
That's all I have.
Cross exam.
All right, if I understand your timeline, you think that y'all had communicated on one of these messaging apps for about a year?
The first one about a year, and then we moved to the other one.
Okay. And so how long total?
About 2 years.
2 years, all right. And you never met in person?
Correct.
You live in a neighboring county,
Yes.
right? And I don't want to go into any specifics, because you would agree. There is contained in here, I think it's in March, there's a lengthy, what you would call phone sex exchange. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
But it's not really phone when you're talking, it's text sex, basically, right?
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of it, but it is, you would agree that it's very clearly two parties engaged in the chat.
Yes.
Is that fair to say? So he was indicating what he was going to be doing, and you were indicating what your response would be, or your request for more of the same, or something to that nature. That's fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And what I'm getting to is this. I mean, you would agree, Ross never made you, forced you to do anything that you didn't already want to be engaged in, did he?
Correct.
Okay. You talked to one of the detectives, a really nice fellow by the name of Racy. Do you remember that? Real nice guy. Y'all had a phone conversation back in July. It's been a long time ago. You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And you knew you were being recorded. Yeah. Did you ever go in and have an interview with one of the detectives, like at the police department?
No.
Okay. When's the next time that you had some contact with somebody from the police department or the district attorney's office?
It was, I don't remember exactly, but it was a while after that initial conversation.
Was it like the beginning of this year, perhaps?
No, it was before that.
Before that?
Yeah, it was probably either like 6 months to a year after the first time they contacted me.
Okay. And did they call again to have a phone conversation, or did they come out to see you?
I went to them.
You went to them? All right. And you remember who was it you met with?
I met with Chuck and Crystal, and there's some other people. I don't know.
Okay. All right. You're talking about this Chuck, this nice guy, blue tie, the handsome one right here?
Yes.
Okay. I like the word, the transcript. All right, so that was the only in-person meeting you had with anybody from the state then, right?
No, we met probably about 3 times, I think.
Okay. All right. But there weren't police officers there, were there? or detectives?
There was a detective there at one point. I don't remember his name.
Don't remember his name. Okay. He wasn't in a uniform though.
I don't think so.
Is he in here right now?
On the first row.
Okay. The other handsome guy. All right. All right, so you think you met once with him in person, and that would have been, what, in the last year or so?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you didn't do any sort of written statement or anything like that, did you? Okay. All right, so during the time that y'all chatted, talked, a lot of these communications were very short, so hey, how you doing? Almost just sort of, what's up sort of talk, right? Okay. And then some of it was of a very graphic sexual nature, right? Okay. And there came a point where you indicated that you were having some sort of issues. You were having some personal issues. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right. I want to go back to the conversation that you had with Detective Racy in July of 2014. You told Detective Racy that you made up a bunch of lies when you were talking to Ross, just to have something to talk about.
I exaggerated some things, but it wasn't all lies.
Okay. You exaggerated some things?
Yeah.
Okay. And Ross isn't the only person that you messaged with before, correct?
Correct.
All right. And you would agree it's certainly not uncommon when you're messaging with somebody that you don't really know, it's easy to exaggerate, right?
Yes.
And it wasn't uncommon for you to do it. You exaggerate some things, make yourself seem more interesting. Is that fair to say? Okay. And there's nothing unusual about that as far as you know. That's pretty much what everybody does, right? Yeah? Okay. So when you told him that you just made up lies, to have something to talk to him about, it wasn't anything more than just sort of some of these little things that you were talking about, some of these problems you were having maybe?
It wasn't all lies.
Okay. You just made them seem worse?
Sometimes.
Okay. All right. The communication you said lasted up until the end of May? Does that sound about right? All right. And at that time, did you just stop using Scout altogether?
Kick.
I'm sorry, Kick.
Yeah.
Did you stop using it altogether? Okay. And that's why there would have been a message that Ross got that said, it looks like Molly's phone has been disconnected for a while. We'll deliver your message when they connect again, right?
Yes.
And that's the message that comes on when somebody's just cut their service off or deleted their app. Is that what you did, just deleted the app?
Yep.
All right. Did you ever reinstall the app and start using Kick again?
Not since then.
Not since then? Okay. And what about Scout? Is that something you still use?
No.
No? All right. Did you ever use Whisper
You did at one point.
at one point in time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I think Mr. Boyne asked you if you had received some images of Ross. Did Ross send you some images?
Yes.
He sent you some images of his privates?
Yes.
Okay. And you sent him some images as well? Is that fair to say? Okay. Thank you.
Molly, that day in March that the defense attorney asked you about where you engaged in some sexual conversation with him, was that basically one of the few days through over those 6 months that you ever said anything sexual back to him?
Yeah.
Was he constantly saying things like that to you?
Not constantly, but as often.
Okay. And because defense counsel asked you, about whether you were having problems and maybe exaggerating, things like that, did you actually send him pictures depicting some of the problems you were having?
Yes.
And when you did that, how did he respond?
I don't remember.
Let me. I'm going to show you State Exhibit 407. Showing you 407, page 38. May 1st, did you show him some of the problems you're having and injuries you had?
Yes.
And in that conversation, did you tell him about what had happened?
Yes.
Later on that next day, did you send him pictures?
Yes.
And did those pictures, were those also from the picture you'd shown him before depicting those injuries?
Yes.
And how did he respond?
Read it.
Yes. It would be easier if I read it.
Sure.
He responded to that picture, "Oh, I like those."
Yeah.
And he asked you, "What does the back look like?"
Yeah.
This is right in the middle of you sending in pictures of your injuries. That's all I have.
Sure, I understand what we're talking about here. Sent him a picture on May the 1st, right?
Yeah.
Let me see, make sure we're looking at the same thing. You got your,
Did you have a chihuahua?
Yes.
take a look, right, read that please to yourself. Take a look now. Can you see that far?
Yes.
Mr. Boring asked you about a comment that Ross made. He said, "Oh, I like those." Well, the fact of the matter is, what he was actually responding to was you sent a picture of your underpants and said, "I have new panties." And his response was, "Oh, I like those." And you said, "Thanks." That's what that was all about, wasn't it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that the same picture of panties that you shown earlier where it was depicted where you had injuries?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Any more questions? Thank you.
You're free to go. Next witness.
State calls Elizabeth Smith.
Watch your step.
pronounce it?
My name is Elizabeth Smith, Elizabeth
Okay. And Ms. Smith, do you live in the metro Atlanta area?
Yes,
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. Did you know a person by the name of Justin Ross Harris?
Yes,
Okay. And how did you meet him?
I met him online through a Whisper app, and then it proceeded to kick.
When you met him on Whisper, about when was this?
About January 2014, I believe.
And how old were you then?
21.
When you met him on this application, do you remember if it was something that he was responding to of yours or that you were responding to of his?
I do not recall.
But you said at some point, soon thereafter, you started using a different application called Kick.
Yes.
And why did you choose to go to a different application?
I think it was just easier to talk to on Kick.
And just to kind of show everyone, did you actually have contact with the defendant on June the 18th, 2014 via the Kick application?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Elizabeth, tell the jury a little bit about your communications with him at first. How often did y'all talk when you first started communicating?
We talked pretty often, like almost every day, if not every other day.
And when you talked to this person, do you remember his screen name?
Bama something.
Okay. If I showed it to you later, would you be able to
Yes.
recognize it? Okay. When you spoke to him, when y'all spoke back and forth, what was the general nature, kind of what was the subject matter when you first started talking?
It was of sexual nature.
Okay. And was that back and forth?
Yes.
Do you remember if he told you how old he was at the time when you met?
30 something, but I don't remember to be exact.
And at some point, do you remember, did he ever tell you that he was actually married?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember how long into the conversation with him that he told you he was married?
Not exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was early on.
Okay. Now, as far as the communication back and forth, how long did it go on about every day or every other day when it was very often you were talking back and forth with sexually related conversation?
It went on for a couple months. I don't remember exactly, but
Okay. And so, were there points that y'all were talking back and forth? Did you actually, let me ask you in general about your conversations with him. Was it strictly to the application Kick after you moved to that, or did you guys start communicating differently?
I think we spoke on the phone like once or twice.
I'm going to turn your attention back to around February of 2014. Did there come a time where you actually met him in person?
Yes.
Okay. And was this somewhere also in the metro area?
Yes.
Without telling the location specifically, but what was the description of that type of area that you met him in?
It was somewhere right off 75 in the
And,
parking lot
okay, was it close to where you were or close to where he was?
where I was.
Who drove and kind of how did you meet?
Well, he drove to where I was, and then I got in his car and met him there.
What type of car was he driving at that time?
It was a 4-door car.
Was it like an SUV or a sedan or something different? The
No,
best
it's
you
just
remember.
like a car.
Car, well, I won't even throw out car types, but something
Right.
4 doors, kind of shorter, not an
Right,
SUV.
right.
All right. So, and back in February 2014, did you engage in sexual acts with him in the car?
Yes, I did.
Now, after that, did you guys continue communication?
Yes.
And with the conversations, did they go back and forth, sometimes sexually related, sometimes other things?
Yes.
Did he at some point tell you that he actually had a child?
Yes.
Okay. And did he tell you the child's name?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he tell you the child's name was?
Cooper.
When he told you this, now during the extent of this conversation, did he talk about Cooper much at all?
Not a ton that I remember, like a couple
Okay.
times.
All right. Do you remember back in April of 2014, did you tell him things kind of slow down a little bit?
Yes.
And why was that?
I believe that was the time I started seeing someone.
Now, back in April, early April, before that, 2014, did you actually come into contact personally with him again?
Yes.
Okay, and where was this and where were you going?
I was going to pick up Braves tickets and met him in a parking lot of a hotel.
And did you guys have any sexual relations at that point at all?
No.
I'm going to show you what I've previously marked for identification purposes as state's exhibits. For 10, 411, and 412. First, I'm going to ask you, do you recognize State's Exhibit 410? And how do you recognize this?
I saw it earlier.
Okay. And is this the actual printout of the chats, and does it fairly and accurately depict the chat messages and conversations back and forth between you and the defendant in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, I tender 410.
The same objections that I've been making to similar evidence with other witnesses, if I could have those objections please.
No, you can proceed.
Okay, I'm going to show you State's Exhibits 411 and 412 just briefly. Do you recognize those two photographs?
I do.
Okay. And are these photographs that the defendant sent you that are also in those chats as well?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, tender States 411 and 412.
Same objections.
Same ruling.
412, now, is that one of the pictures that he actually sent you in the chats?
Mhm.
Is that one from June 15th where he talked about his AC being out?
Yes.
Now, I'm showing you 411. This picture you've seen, have you seen that anywhere else other than what he sent you?
Yes.
And where have you seen that?
On the news.
Okay, so this is a picture that's actually been shown on the news. Okay, so you've been engaging in sexual acts with him and things like that, or you had before in these conversations, and then on April the 3rd, he actually sends you this picture. And I think I got the dates wrong. Was that more like April 25th that he sent you this photograph? Later in April at some point?
I think it was later in April.
Okay. And where was he?
He was at the Braves game.
Okay, so he's at the Braves game with his son, and he's chatting back and forth with you? Okay. Did you have people that you knew there as well?
I did.
Okay, and how did the conversation go, and why did you find that? Why does that stick out in your mind?
I think he sent me a picture of like home plate, and I ended up seeing a friend on Snapchat post or some sort of, social media, posted a picture from the same sort of area.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when he sent me the picture, I could actually see my friend in the photo.
Now, when you guys met up in early April, was he driving the same car?
No, he was not.
Okay, what type of car was he driving then?
He was driving like I guess it's a SUV or it's a light blue car.
Okay. And that one, do you remember seeing a car seat or anything at that time?
I believe there was one in the back seat, yes.
And what do you remember about it? What sticks out in your mind if you remember?
It's like one of the ones that kind of laid down. It wasn't the ones that was sitting up,
Mhm.
and I believe it was red and black.
And I know you guys didn't have, did you guys kiss on that?
Yes, we
day?
did.
Now, did he say anything about did he have any problems? Was he having any problems at home with his wife or anything like that? Did he discuss that at all with you?
Yeah, it was more problems in the bedroom that he discussed. That's pretty much all we talked about with his wife, though.
Okay. And did the messaging kind of continue on until June 18th?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to turn your attention, ask you to go to the notebook I left up there with you, State's Exhibit 410. I'm going to ask you to turn to page 43, toward the end. And on, excuse me, on June 18th, 2014 at 12:14 a.m., I guess late night, early morning hours, did you send him a message?
I did.
Was it a screenshot of a text?
Yes.
And based off of that, did you guys get into a conversation and start discussing the fact that you actually had met up before and had certain relations?
Yes, we did.
And did that conversation continue on with the defendant responding at 12:44 a.m.?
Yes.
So he was communicating with you about these sexually related matters up until 12:44 a.m. of June 18th.
Correct.
Now, I'm going to turn your attention to later that morning at 5:46 a.m. Okay. Did you send him a message that continued kind of that conversation?
I did.
And at 5:46 a.m., within 17 seconds of your messages, did he respond?
He did.
Okay. And was it also him asking you to come, or asking you about performing sexual acts?
Yes.
Okay. And did he later at 7:25 a.m. ask you to come up and do the same thing to him?
He did.
Okay. And so he responded at 5:46 a.m. and 7:25 a.m. to you in sexually related text. Back at 10:27 a.m., did you finally respond to him?
I did.
Okay. And what did you respond with?
No, I am in Hilton Head.
Okay. And did basically a couple of other texts go back and forth between the two of you in response to that about where you were?
Right.
And the last message you sent him was at what time that morning?
10:45
Was that a.m.?
a.m.
Okay,
Yes.
on June 18th. And at 5:46 a.m. and 7:25 a.m., was there anything in the messages or anything whatsoever for you to know exactly where he was or who he was with while he was doing these things with you?
No.
Were you married or had children or anything at the time?
No.
That's all I have.
Yes, sir. You were interviewed by Detective Racy on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? This would have
Briefly.
been July the 10th? Does that sound right?
Probably.
Okay. And your friend, Kayla, called the police department for you. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Do you, did you not see on the news Ross's picture all over the news?
Yes, I did.
Okay. From June the 18th?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, it was probably on the news. Was it on the news every day, almost up until July the 10th?
I do not recall. I wasn't watching the news.
You saw his picture a bunch,
Right.
and you knew exactly what had happened.
Right.
Okay. And you didn't call the police on June the 18th, or the 19th,
No, I
the
did not.
20th, or the 21st, or the 22nd, or any time until your friend called on July the 10th. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And if you believe that you had any information relevant to the case, you would have called June the 18th or 19th, wouldn't you?
Probably not. I was with my family in Hilton Head, and I didn't find out until after I got home at some point. And at that point, I was too afraid to make a phone call.
When did you get home?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
You told Detective Racy that Ross had never talked about wanting to leave his wife.
Correct.
And he specifically asked you, because he had the chats, and Detective Racy knew that y'all had been communicating for some time, right? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And he knew that there had been at least one physical encounter,
Correct.
right? And he asked you very specifically about that. You indicated no, never said anything about leaving his wife. Fair to say?
Fair to say.
Okay. You indicated that Ross was big on exaggerating things.
Yes.
Yeah. A big talker.
Yes.
Make himself sound more interesting.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The next time you talked to the police, when was that?
I do not remember.
Right. Do you remember, was it in person or was it on the phone?
It was in person,
Right. Was it at the police department or at the district attorney's office?
the police department.
Okay. And do you remember which detective or detectives were there?
His name started with an E, I think.
With an E?
I think so.
Okay. Escamillo?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
All right. Is that when you gave him your phone?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Did you ever have another meeting after that?
No, I don't think I gave him my phone the first time. I think it was the second time.
Okay.
But it was one of those times when I gave them my phone.
All right. Did you ever come back and have another sit-down meeting with a detective?
I don't think so. I think it was just turning in my phone.
All right, very good. So I want to turn now to the, I believe the picture you identified was from the Braves game.
Yes.
Do you still have that?
I think it's right there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, and so you were asked a little bit about that, and if I could have you turn back to April the 25th. And if you see, when y'all started communication in the afternoon, sometime around 4:37, do you see that? Ross sends you, does he send you a photograph or an emoji, or what is that?
I'm not quite sure
Okay,
at this point.
all right, and you say
But I see
what?
what you're talking about.
All right, you say, what's up, and he says, headed home. And then at 4:39 in the afternoon, he tells you taking the boy to the Braves game.
Mhm.
And you say, aw. And then you don't have any communication at all until 9:03.
Mhm.
Okay? So the Braves have been playing for just an hour and a half, I guess, at that point. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right, and so you message him back and you say, what do people do on Friday nights if they don't work?
Correct.
See that? And then he sends you, looks like a couple of pictures from the Braves game, including that one of he and Cooper.
Yes.
And you notice that one of your friends is located in the picture.
Yes.
Can you actually see your friend in that picture?
Um,
Or was it one of the other pictures?
It's not this picture.
It's
no.
not this one,
No,
it's a different one?
it's a different one.
Let's see which one it is.
This one right here, I believe. I don't know that I could point out from that picture.
No, probably not. Okay, so that's a picture of sort of the crowd in front, and then you can see part of the field.
Yes.
All right, and that's pretty wild. You actually saw a friend of yours in a picture that Ross sent to you.
Correct.
And he said, hey, you're close to my friend. And then you responded to the picture of Cooper and said, OMG, cuteness overload. See that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
You see that? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, and then y'all, did he send you two more pictures? You tell him where the friend is?
Yes.
And then, let's see. You wonder if Ross is gonna go up and talk to the guy. He sends you another picture. What is that image that you send at 9, 10, and 21?
It was a picture of my friend.
Picture of
And
your
me.
friend?
Yeah.
Okay. And then he says, I can't believe I was right next to your friend. Weird. All right?
Mm-hmm.
See that? And it goes on for another page. See that?
Which part?
It would go into the next page. Y'all are still talking about the same thing.
Yes.
And the point is this. The entire communication there was about the fact that Ross sent a picture from the Braves game. You saw a friend of yours. Y'all thought it was weird. You chatted it up about that, and that was it.
Correct.
Okay. There was no sexual communication between you and Ross while he was at the ball game.
No.
Okay. Want to ask you about, just real quickly, and I'm not going to go into any specific communications here that whatever y'all would have texted about, or any times that y'all met up, but just so that everybody's clear, there was no force involved. You hooked up with Ross because you wanted to.
Correct.
But I do want to ask you about, and the same with the chat. Some of it has got sort of graphic sexual lingo where y'all are communicating, and that was a two-way street.
It was.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you then about the 18. Now, you told us you were in Hilton Head.
Yes.
And you've looked back through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would agree there's no communication here to show that you had previously told Ross that you were going to be in Hilton Head, right?
Right.
And you text him, this is the kick application, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you communicate with him at 5:46 in the morning?
Yes.
And you expressed to him that you are feeling amorous and want to engage in fellatio,
Yes.
all right? And 5:46, Ross acknowledges that,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then at 7:25 in the morning, he asks if you can come and do that to him that day.
Correct.
That morning of the 18th, he's asking you to hook up with him. That morning, isn't he?
Yes.
Did he ever tell you that his child was going to be in the car?
No, he did not.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions, Elizabeth. One, when you went into the police, when you gave them their phone, did you voluntarily turn over your phone so they could get whatever information you had to corroborate that what they were seeing on their information was the same?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And when you talked about the defendant, it said exaggerating some things and things like that. What would he do to exaggerate?
Just like some of his stories, I can't remember anything specifically, but like they seemed far-fetched, and they didn't seem like I want to say, and
Do you remember something about NSYNC?
yes.
Okay.
And I don't want to say the incorrect thing, but I do remember him saying something about he met them or something like that. He played with them,
Mm-hmm.
and that just didn't really register in my mind that would have been real.
Okay. Because a lot of times when things are not real on the internet to a degree, people put themselves out and portray themselves one way.
Correct.
Maybe like they're a good father, they love their child, they love their wife,
Objection.
things like, I'll withdraw.
Objection.
Okay.
Yep, I agree.
In that case, let me move on then. He messaged you several times about wanting to meet up and have sexual relations with you too.
Yes.
Did that prove out to be true or an exaggeration?
That he wanted to meet up with me,
Mhm.
that was true.
That's all I have.
Thank goodness.
Statement called Jane Meadows. Good afternoon, ma'am. Please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury by telling them your name and spelling it so the court reporter gets it right.
My name is Jaynie Meadows. It's JaynieMeadows.
And how old are you, Ms. Meadows?
I'm 21.
What area of the state do you live?
I live in Middle Georgia.
Okay. And are you in school right now?
I am.
Okay. Do you know a person by the name of Justin Ross Harris?
I did.
Okay, and what did you know him by? What did you call him?
Ross.
About when did you first meet the defendant in this case?
I started talking to him in May of 2013.
And how old were you then?
18.
How did you first meet him? Like in person or some other way?
I met him on a dating site.
And tell the jury a little bit about, had you been using any of these sites before, or was there something that kind of sparked you to get on these type of sites?
I had just turned 18, and this is the first time I'd ever been on anything like that. So
Had you had any kind of recent breakup with a boyfriend or anything?
I did. I had a really bad breakup, and Ross just kind of showed up in the time that I needed, I guess.
What application were you using to start with?
It's called Scout.
And when you were on Scout, do you remember how you first struck up a conversation, or how that actually went?
He texted me first, or like he messaged me first.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what he said off the top of my head, but
Did the conversation quickly turn? Well, first of all, how did the conversation relationship start out?
it was very friendly.
Okay.
He called me that day. We talked on the phone for about 3 hours.
Okay. So immediately after that, you basically started talking right off the bat. Did he tell you initially how old he was?
He did not. He told me he was 25.
Okay. So he gave you an age. It was just a lie. And during this time, about how long did you stay in these conversations, talking with him and things, while thinking he was 25?
Probably about a month, maybe.
During that time, did you also think he was single?
Yes.
Did you know anything about him having any children?
No.
Did the conversations between you and the defendant, did they progress? Did they become sexually, sexual type of conversations?
Yes.
Okay. And how would y'all communicate in this way? Was it via an app, via email, phone, or other?
We talked on the phone, we texted, and we used this app called Kick.
Mm-hmm. And so back then, I guess kind of in the beginning parts of your knowing the defendant, were photographs and things sent back and forth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did he send
Yes, sir.
photographs of himself, sexually explicit photographs to you?
Yes.
Did you send any back during that time?
Yes.
Did he send any emails or videos or anything like that?
He did.
And what type of videos? I mean, well, let me start with this. Was some of them, or one of them at least, sexually explicit?
Yes.
Would he send you other things too?
Yes, he sent me 3 songs.
Okay, songs. And were these songs just off the radio or something he was creating?
He was playing them on the guitar. One of them was the Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, I think, one of those songs. I had fallen in love with it at the time.
You said you'd fallen in love with it. Can you tell the jury a little bit about what was your relationship like with him at the time, with the defendant?
I guess I fell in love with him.
Did he express feelings like that to you too?
Yes.
And did he tell you that he loved you? During that time, did he talk to you about meeting up or anything during that period of time?
Yes, but I never did. Or
And,
at least not then.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not then, sorry.
And why did you not meet up with him at that point?
When I was an 18-year-old kid, I was kind of sketched out by the whole idea, I guess.
At some point, did he tell you right off the bat or initially where he worked or anything of that nature?
Not that I can recall.
Did there come a time after you is it safe to say that after a month or so of communicating with him, you became attached?
Yes.
Did there come a time where he actually informed you of his family situation, his real family situation, and his age?
Yes.
Okay. Did he know that you had fondness for children?
Yes.
Tell the jury a little bit about how did you find out, through what means did you find out that he was not telling you the truth about his age and family situation?
We were playing a game one day called Two Truths and a Lie, or Two Lies and a Truth. And it was just something that we did every now and then. It was just something fun to do. And he sent me one. It said, one was, I'm married. The second one was, I have a kid. And the third one was, like, I think it was his age, I think. And I guessed one. And I was like, well, maybe you have a kid. And he was like, no, they're all three truths. So,
And how did you react to that?
I mean, I was kind of taken aback by it, but
Now, based on the nature of y'all's communications, calling and things like that, had you found anything suspicious about whether he had a family or not, leading up to that point, in hindsight?
well, yeah, like he would only call at certain times of the day, and he would only text me at certain times of the day. So that was all kind of, I don't know, kind of weird to me. But I didn't think about it at the time.
Generally, what times would he usually message you?
It would start about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it'd go until probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then he'd call me around 7 or 8.
And was this basically from the time that y'all first started talking all the way up through to some other point, months down the road in the future?
Yes.
Did these conversations continue to include, even after you found out that he had a family, would he communicate, would y'all talk sexually back and forth?
Yes.
I'm going to turn your attention back to, I guess it was sometime in the summer of 2013. Did you actually meet the defendant in this case?
I did August of 2013.
And what was the area somewhere kind of near where you live?
Yes.
Okay, it was a long way away from where he lives.
Yes.
What were you doing that day, and where did you go that he met you?
He had told me the day before that he wanted to see me, and I told him what I was doing the next day. And he showed up, I guess.
Did you think he was really going to come to where you were?
No.
How did you find out he was on the way or coming there?
Actually, I woke up to the text. It was probably 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just slept in that day. And he had texted me telling me that he was in my town.
And so what did you respond? What did you tell him?
I told him I was already there because I guess I didn't want him like coming to the house and everything.
Was this a store in that area?
Yes.
Okay. And did you actually see him or meet him? And if you did, tell the jury how and where.
Yes. I was actually in the store picking out some things for my friend that had just moved into her dorm. And he called me and asked me what aisle I was on, and he came and talked to me and that kind of thing.
Now, at any time, did you actually kiss the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. Did it go any further than that?
No.
After that happened, did he leave?
Yes, he had to pick up Cooper.
Okay. Now, were you still 18 years of age?
Yes.
And was this the last time that you actually physically came into contact with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. Even though this was the last time you physically came into contact, emotionally, did you remain in contact with him for several months?
Yes.
And when I say emotionally, did you guys tell each other how you felt about each other?
Yes.
What would you tell him?
I told him that I loved him.
And what would he tell you?
He told me that he loved me.
Now, during this time, did he talk about his marital situation?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he say about that?
They were having problems.
Did he say anything about why they were having problems or anything like that?
I mean, financial problems, obviously, and their families didn't really get along all the time. And I mean, they fought about like nitpicky stuff for the most part.
Did he tell you, did he describe his relationship with his wife as falling apart and things like that over the months that you knew him?
Yes.
Now, did he also talk about his son during these periods back in 2013?
Yes.
And when he's talking to you, I guess it would have been all via chatter and phone and things like that. Did he talk about his son in a great way?
Yes.
Okay. And what type of things would he say about his son back then, like in 2013?
He just talked about how much he loved him and how he would never do anything to hurt him and that kind of thing.
Would he send you pictures and things like that?
Yes, all the time.
So back then in 2013, he was sending you pictures of Cooper a lot and things like that. Okay. But he'd do a lot of things to try and impress you.
I guess you could say that.
Okay. Were there times when you would be on the phone with him and you could hear Cooper in the background?
Yes.
Okay, tell the jury about that.
He would hook his phone up to his car and
Like
I would-
Bluetooth?
Yes.
Okay. Is there, well, just, I think most people know what Bluetooth is. Tell the jury what that means. What is Bluetooth?
Basically, instead of you talking through your headset or like talking to headphones or anything like that, your car has the speaker system, so you can literally like almost talk into your steering wheel.
Okay. And when you had the car on Bluetooth, would you hear anything, or could you hear anything back and forth?
Yeah, I could hear Cooper babbling most of the time.
Okay. And given the conversation with his Bluetooth, would he be able to hear you?
Yes.
Okay. During these times, did the defendant, did he appear to be fond of Chick-fil-A?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you remember about that?
Him and Cooper would go and get breakfast there a lot. He loved getting breakfast there.
Would he say, I tell you that he would go buy Chick-fil-A before he dropped Cooper off at daycare or
Yes.
after?
Before.
Did he ever talk about going through the drive-thru with Cooper?
I knew more about like him sitting in there with him.
Were there times, though, that he would go through the drive-thru and you would know that they'd gone through together?
Yes.
I'm going to turn your attention to, I guess, did there come a time when you stopped responding in the same manner as he did as far as y'all's relationship?
Yes.
Okay, tell the jury about that.
I was never really a large fan of the sexual stuff, and after a while, like March of 2014, I got into a relationship with somebody else, so that really fell off. And yeah.
Okay, and even before that, were there times when the defendant would express things to you and say things sexually to you or send you photographs that you would respond in a negative way?
Yes.
Okay, tell the jury about how you would say, what you would say, and then how he would react or how he would respond.
Most of the time, I just wouldn't even respond to it. I'd look over it and read whatever was below it. But and then other times I would get mad at him, and then he would get upset with me, asking about why I didn't like it, I guess.
And so did this kind of continue on through the entirety of your relationship with him?
Yes. It was never me just asking. Well, not that I can recall.
Okay. And so was it obvious he was still in love with you?
Yes.
And you, to some degree, did you still have feelings for him?
Yes.
Now, let me go ahead and show you what I marked for identification purposes as show defense counsel first. States exhibits 413, 414, 415. Jaynie, I'm not going to go into detail on this yet. I'm going to go ahead and introduce this. First of all, do you recognize State's Exhibit 413?
Yes.
And how do you recognize that?
They're the messages between Ross and I.
Okay, and those fair and accurate messages, at least that were obtained from December of 2013 up through June of 2014.
Yes, but some of them were only his side, not mine.
The first part where it picks up until, I think, oh gosh,
I think it's like April.
late March, early April, it only picks up one side of it, just his responses and things like that, correct?
Yes.
And then after that, it's back and forth between the two.
Yes.
And showing you States Exhibit 414 and 415, do you recognize those photos?
Yes.
Okay, States 414, is that a photograph he'd sent you sometime before these actual texts?
Maybe.
Something that you, is this something, did you turn over to the State of
Yes.
Defense photographs or some things that you had saved on your computer that you found recently?
Yes.
Is this one of those photographs?
Yes.
Okay, and States Exhibit 415, is that a photograph of you that you really wish you had a better picture of?
Yes.
That is from one of the chats that were sent back and forth?
Yes.
And is that just you making a funny face?
Yes.
You're all right, Tender States Exhibit 413, 414, and 415.
Send objections to the similar evidence or prior.
They really,
And Jaynie, I'm just going to leave this up here with you for now. I'll probably ask you some questions in a few minutes about it, okay? And then I'll ask you some questions about one of these other photos as well. Now, did you turn over, you found a lot of photos, I think, recently from a computer. Did you have a phone beforehand that you had used mostly to message back and forth with the defendant?
Yes. It actually ran out of storage, so I had to back up everything to my computer. And then everything was lost off my phone and left on my computer.
Okay. Did we ask you to try to find the computer, or the phone, and could you find it?
I could not.
Okay. Did you try to give us what you could find off of your computer?
Yes.
Did it have a lot of screenshots of text and stuff between you and Mr. Harris?
Yes.
You and the defendant? And were they basically illegible, most of them?
Yes.
Okay. And were there also photos of, the photos that he sent you, were there a number of photos that the defendant had sent you of Cooper?
Yes.
Okay. And then were these when he was like older toward June, or were these much younger, like before these kick messages started?
He was younger.
Now, when did he talk about how often, or did you tell the police about how often it was he would complain about his marriage to Leanna?
Probably once a week, maybe once every other week.
And during this time, did he discuss wanting to be with you?
Yes.
And what would he say?
He would say that if his situation was different, he would be with me instead of her.
And did he ever say that, if it wasn't for Cooper, he would leave Leanna?
Yes.
I know you said at some point there was you got a boyfriend in March of 2014.
Mm-hmm.
How did the defendant react to that?
He wasn't very happy about it, but then again, the guy I was dating wasn't really the best of the bunch.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So I guess maybe kind of protective.
yes.
Now, during the time, I guess throughout this relationship, were there times when you would just not respond to the defendant, or not respond to his messages, or even cut off the application totally, the kick
Yes.
application? How did the defendant respond when you cut off contact and things of that nature?
He would get upset, and he told me at one point that he had moved on.
Okay. Had he, based on the messages afterward?
Not from what I could tell.
Now, during the message, I know you talked about early in the morning and things like that, he would message you. Did he ever message you while he's on the job and while he's working?
Yes.
Okay, tell the jury about that.
He would text me and call me constantly through the day. If he had a meeting or anything, he couldn't talk then, but he would call me whenever he got back to his desk.
Jaynie, did he try to contact you, looking at those records, on June 18th, 2014?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do is ask you to go ahead and look at the messages right now, and we're going to go through some of those messages I'm going to turn your attention to some specific messages. I'm going to ask you to read the content to the jury, okay? Okay. It's, the notebook, okay? And just about some specific topics. First of all, you talked about the times of day it would start. I'm going to turn your attention to starting early on with the messages where he's sending you that are reflecting just what he's sending you, okay? Looking on page 2. Okay, at 1:39 a.m., a few, about 5 or 6 messages down, does he tell you about how he feels about you?
Yes.
What does he say?
He says, I love you, Jaynie Meadows.
Now, a little further down, going to the 20th of 2013, look at 6:30 a.m. Did he send you a message at 6:30 a.m. in the early morning hours again? What does he tell you then?
He says, I love you.
December 26th at 4:22 p.m., what does he tell you?
He says, I love you, Jaynie.
Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these. Are there a number of times going on through February, March, April, going into even the months after you said you'd gotten a boyfriend, that he messaged you early in the morning?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to turn your attention. I know you talked about some of the messages that he would send where you weren't engaging sexually with him, but he would send you some messages. Okay. I'm going to turn your attention to December the 30th, 2013. That's going to be on page 3, starting at the bottom. Does he say things starting at the bottom of page 3 and on to page 4 that are sexually related?
Yes.
And is that just kind of an example of him talking about his anatomy and things like that, that when you talk about he continued to do that, an example of the language he would use and things like that?
Yes.
And I'm not going to go through all of these either, but do these also continue through January? And you reviewed these before you came in here today, correct? Okay. So, through January, February, March, April, where he went into detail and still kept making sexually suggestive comments toward you. I'm going to ask you some questions. I know we talked a little bit about timing and things like that, about how he felt when you wouldn't message him and how he felt about you, okay? I'm going to start, turn your attention to January the 19th, 2014. That is going to be on page 6, 5:17 p.m. Okay, what did he say to you then?
It says, I love you, honey.
Okay. And immediately under that, was there a string of messages about Cooper?
Yes.
Okay. Now, starting at 7:15 p.m. on the 21st of January, that's on page 6, what does he talk about? What does he say?
Cooper was sick.
Okay. And what was his comment?
Worst Cooper poop. And then he says, ever, ever.
And then looking at the top of page 7, what does he say?
I almost died.
So, logically speaking, he said it smelled really bad, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did he ever tell you about having any problems smelling anything?
Not that I can recall. But I know that he didn't have hearing in one of his ears.
Did he tell you about that?
Yes.
Okay.
It was an accident in high school, I think.
Okay. And in the car, when you would speak on Bluetooth, did he ever have a problem hearing you in the car?
Not in the car, because he'd always hook it up to the Bluetooth. It was all over the car. That's why he did it. Because he didn't like holding it up to one side of his face.
So he could hear things within the car.
Yes.
Okay. And he never told you he had any problem hearing his kid in the car, correct?
No.
Okay, going to February the 20th, 2014, that is going to be on page 13, about a third of the way down. He says, he says, I want to see you, and then he responds, I guess you really didn't want to talk to me again, and then never called me back. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and is that something common that would happen over these months as it got longer or further and further into the relationship? Your responses would be less and less.
Judge, I'm going to object. I've let him read this far, but he's really just testified.
Well, I sustain this to legal.
How did it progress as you got closer to June? Was the contact becoming more frequent or less frequent?
Less.
Okay, February 25th, 2014. Turn your attention to that on, excuse me, 21st of February on page 14. All the way down there's a comment about Athens. What does he say there?
Come to Athens.
And then what does he say after that?
I miss you.
March 5th, looking at page 17, about 4 messages down. Does he tell you how he feels about you again?
Yes.
What does he say?
Love you.
And then, does he talk about, what does he say after that?
On the same day.
If you get, when he says, go down after that, he says, love you, then what does he say next?
Honey,
And what does he say after that?
talk to me.
And then what does he say after that?
You're gone.
And does that then, sort of, it looks like you've actually responded to him if you put it in context, is that correct?
Can you repeat the
When
question?
he says, then after that, boo, take a pic of him. Does that look like you've actually started to respond at that point?
Yes, well, it's 4 hours later.
And when you did that, is that around the time that you told him you actually, you were dating somebody? If you remember.
Yes.
Now turn your attention to March the 8th. I think we are at the top of page 18. Is this again where he voices you wish he could, that you would talk with him?
Yes.
And he's wondering if you got any of his texts?
Yes.
And you don't have to read all these other messages in that discussion, but what is that nature of that discussion? What are y'all talking about, and what is he talking about happening between you and this person you started dating?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, looking at that, when you read those messages, can you tell the jury what was going on at that point? Had somebody discovered something or some messaging or something of that nature?
Yes. The guy I was seeing at the time had found out, and he wasn't very happy.
And did the defendant get upset about that?
Yes, because I cut him off.
And looking down at March 9th, on that same page on 18th, tell you how sorry. What does he say there?
Tell you how sorry I am and that giving you up isn't easy.
Okay. March 28th, I'm going to ask you to turn to that. That's going to be just page 21. He says on the 28th toward the bottom where he talks about his manager. What does he say about his manager?
My manager has issues.
And does he continue saying he doesn't know how to fix him, or don't know how to fix me, and then starts about saying he misses you and wishes he could have sex with you?
Yes.
Okay, on the 29th, Do you get into a discussion then about you leaving him?
On the 29th?
Yeah, March 29th, looking at page 22. Looking at the third from the bottom, that message there.
Yes.
Okay. And what does he say then?
You dropped me so fast with no explanation.
And Jaynie, just, you reviewed this. Does this continue on through several times in April where you don't respond to him?
Yes.
Does it continue into May as well?
I think
Let
so.
me do this. Let me turn your attention to, just skip ahead to May 4th, 2014. On May 4th at 7:44 p.m., does he message you then?
Yes.
Okay. And what does he say to you?
Get up here.
And did he tell you before that his wife's not there and he is wants you to visit, for lack of a better term? Okay. And then what does he say when you don't respond for the next? Did he try to get Did he message you again on the next day, the 5th?
Yes.
And did you? What did he message you?
He said hi, and then he said, well, you're officially off that radar.
And so, had you responded to any of those messages?
Not that I can recall.
And what happened on that day? Had you cut off the Kick app at that point?
Yes, I cut it off on the 8th.
And is that when you do that, you generate a message that says the person's no longer receiving messages and things of that nature? And then after that, does he try to message you again on the 9th and the 10th?
Yes.
What does he message you on the 9th?
Put 2 question marks.
And then the 10th, does he message you again?
Yes.
And what does he say?
And you're just gone with 0 explanation.
And once again, did he get that message?
Yes.
Did he try you again on the next day, on the 11th?
Yes.
And what happened? What message did he get?
Just said the message that he got.
Mm-hmm.
It says, oops, it looks like Jaynie's phone has been off/disconnected for a while. We'll deliver your message when they connect again.
Okay. Is that the same thing that happens when you cut it off and you get that message?
Yes.
Now, a couple of days later, did you actually respond to him and
Yes.
engage him again? And did you start texting him again or message him again?
Yes, that day.
Okay.
I asked him to call me.
Okay, now during this time, I know you said you called. Were there times during the messaging going up through June that he would call you and things like that?
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a 706 number back then?
Yes.
And the number that you gave the police back then, is that the same number you would use to call him and things of that nature?
Yes.
Now, when you called him, would he tell you to do anything? Well, what phone would he tell you to call him on?
Usually his work phone.
Okay. And when you called him on his work phone, did you call him numerous times through the months leading up to June of 2014?
Yes.
Okay. Would you ever have to try to, or would you call him on his personal phone?
Yes.
And what would he tell you to do if you were going to use the personal phone?
He told me to block my number.
Now, sometimes I know you said he would complain about his wife and things like that. Did he ever send you pictures of his wife to you?
Yes.
And I'm just going to publish to the jury is State's Exhibit 4. Oh, thank you. That was definitely not the right photo. State's Exhibit 414. Is that the photo, one of the photos that you recovered from your phone?
Yes.
That he sent to you of his wife?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to publish it this time, Judge. Were there times when you would call him and, that you wanted to talk to him and he wasn't able to get loose, basically, that he was either with her or doing something else and he couldn't get in contact with you?
Yes.
Would you get mad at him sometimes?
Yes.
And are those reflected in the text messages as well?
Yes.
Looking at the bottom of page 43, it looks like starting on the 18th, actually about halfway down, he says you're gone again, and you'd cut off kick again on the 18th of May, correct?
Yes.
And then he starts up a conversation, just looking at the next to last message on May 20th, page 43. What does he ask you?
Where have you been?
And do you go on and then discuss kind of where your phone's been off and things like that?
Yes.
Now, looking at on May the 28th of 2014, did you actually, he messaged you on the 23rd hi and you did not respond on that day. 5 days later, did you actually message him back?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you say to him?
Call me when you see this.
And did you say anything else to him?
I probably said hey first, and then I said call me when you see this.
Okay, and then what did he, how did he respond?
He said, what's wrong?
Okay, and what did you respond with?
A lot.
And then what was the next response?
But you never called, so.
Now, after that, how does he respond to you when you talk about the fact that you tried to get him to call?
He says, honey, you drop me and don't talk to me for weeks at a time. I can't drop everything at work and call you.
And then on the next page, how do you respond?
You used to.
And then, how does he respond to you? This is May 28, 2014.
Well, Jaynie, you gave up on me without explanation, so I moved on. It hurt.
And how did you respond?
You moved on? What does that even mean? What now? You're done with me?
And then how does he respond?
No, I'm not done with you, but I accepted that you don't want to talk to me.
And do y'all kind of go on a little bit further about that, going back and forth about how you disappear and things like that?
Yes.
On the 29th, you guys, I'm going to turn your attention to page 8. Y'all back and forth about the fact that you were saying you're trying to get in touch with him, and he's saying, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't respond. Do y'all start talking about whether he cares about you at the bottom of that page? Starting with the third from the bottom, May 29, 2014 at 10:41 p.m., what do you message him?
Because you honestly don't care anymore. You don't leave your phone on. You don't care.
And how does he respond?
I do care. I care a lot. I really care about you. But I'm afraid you're going to leave again, or I'm going to fuck something up. Sorry.
That's what's written here, and that's okay to say that if it's in print, okay? And were you dating somebody still at that time?
Yes.
Now, turn your attention to June of 2014. On June 2nd of 2014, and again, had y'all still been, like, in addition to trying to message, calling on the phone and things like that?
Yes.
Okay, does he message you June 2nd at 6:09 a.m. in the morning?
Yes.
And what does he say?
Morning.
And did you respond to that?
No. I cut off the app.
And again, on the 9th of June, 2014 at 8:27 a.m., does he send you another message?
Yes.
And what is that message?
It's a question mark.
And what is the response it gets again?
The oops, the phone has been disconnected / off.
Does he message you again on the 11th, and do you finally respond on the 13th?
Yes.
Now, looking at it on the 13th, looking down at a message about 4 down where you say, "Do you hate me now?" How did he respond?
Babe, not at all.
And then what did he respond?
Just miss you.
And does he ask you if you even miss him?
Yes.
And then you said, if you ever turned on your phone, you would know. Continues on, y'all talk that day, off and on a little bit. And then going to the 15th of June. Looking at page the last page, page 52. Okay, looking at the top of that, what does the defendant tell you about that he has going on June the 15th?
His AC is out.
Okay, and what does he respond? Did he respond with a curse word?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that picture that was introduced to you, is that the photograph that you sent back in response to his text about the AC being out?
Yes.
And does he also send you a picture of him in his pants sitting there?
Yes.
Now, on the 16th of June, does he try to message you? Or does he send a message to you?
On the 16th?
Excuse me, the 17th.
Yes.
Had you responded to his messages, his last one on the 15th?
No.
On the 17th, what does he send then as a follow-up?
That makes me sad.
What does he say right before that?
Well, you're gone again.
And then he follows that up with, that makes me sad.
sad.
And then, after you haven't responded and everything, did he try one more time to try to get in touch with you and message you?
Yes.
And what day is that?
18th.
Of June 2014? At what time?
5:46 a.m.
Jaynie, and all the messages that you got, those kick messages and stuff, I mean, I know you've gone through it. Other than the one about Cooper's poop smelling bad back in January of 2014, did he ever reference Cooper again in those texts with you?
Not in the text.
Okay. Did he talk about him on the phone?
Yes.
Did you get any pictures after that on those messages or anything?
I think my last picture of Cooper was maybe April or May.
Okay. Was that on like a straight text message or something?
Yes.
Okay. So nothing ever after that?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. I think that's all I have, Judge.
I think we need to take a break. Ladies and gentlemen, close your heads, open mind, no discussion. Enjoy your break. We'll be in recess.
Let's all rise for the jury, please. Just like the stuff going down.
Let's break until about 3:15.
Just go out that way.